was looking at a couple of other tweets regarding the Dolphins game. VBS official, which is like a stats site and a fan, Tua, since returning from injury, 80% completion rate, 232.5 yards per game, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, 111.2 passer rating. Yet the Dolphins are 0-2 in both those games. Both games, he left the field with a lead or tie and never got another chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
because the way those games are going, like, yeah, he's if you give him some time on the clock, he's going to drive you downfield, maybe to put you in field goal range or whatever. But yeah, he never had another chance in either of those games.
The 3rd and 13 pass to Waddle was a Hall of Fame pass, that out route.
Yes.
Like, he was throwing BBs, the one Tyreek in the early 4th quarter, I believe it was. Like, Tua can play quarterback now. He can go out there and do it. His question is the injuries, and then what it is. Tua is a hell of a quarterback. But we have to have shootouts. And I don't want to have a shootout. I want the game. When they were running the ball efficiently, I said it last week. Me and Solana argued about it. They need to run the ball, get to 3rd down, let Tua be Tua, run the ball, get to 3rd down, let Tua pick them apart like that. That is what you saw yesterday is what the Dolphins have to do to win. We need to have 100+ yards rushing and let Tua be efficient on 3rd down. That's the answer.
Clay Ferrero from Local 10, he tweeted this out after the game yesterday. 61-yard field goal is crazy. What's not crazy is offsides penalty on 3rd and 14. Remember that offsides go 3rd and 14, 3rd and 9 is a lot different than 3rd and 14.
Yes.
Personal foul on what should have been 4th down. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Clay also tweets Finn's apparently not knowing that the clock was running to the 2-minute warning after Waddle got hurt. You have an additional timeout if you snap a play before the 2-minute warning there. They did all seem to be caught off guard that the 2-minute warning all of a sudden came out. And so Clay finishes up that tweet by saying, same old story with game-changing mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true.
And
you can't make those mistakes against that team in Buffalo.
And that's what it was. The penalty, the Poyer hit. Drives over. You know what I'm saying? We're going overtime if Poyer doesn't hit that man in his face. Like, yes, and when I played, we would all win and jumped on Jordan Poyer. That was a big hit, separated from the ball. That's what happens. The game changed. That was a justified penalty. No reason to review it. You see the man's head snap back. You know they're going to call it. But that's what you do. This damn Durham Smythe, we need to keep Jonnu Smith and clear the rest of the tight end room out. This damn Durham Smythe jumping off sides, and then on that 3rd and short, he just gets his ass ran over and ran back into Raheem Mostert. Like, yeah, we need to, if they put these tight ends are part of the run game. They're the weakest link on this team. The tight ends are struggling right now. Jonnu is a hell of a weapon, but Durham and Julian and all them boys, they upset.
Pleasure not to see Julian out there this past game. Did you see Mike Gesicki do the gritty?
Mike had him a day yesterday.
Scored a touchdown, did the gritty.
Bro scored 2.
That's one of the weirder personnel decisions I believe that they've made. Like, they discounted him before they asked him to do anything different. They had made up their mind on him. There are obviously, listen, you could do personnel. Like, I get the Chris Grier criticisms because they're fair. You could do personnel criticisms, look back on it, but you could also do a lot of positives too. Mm-hmm. Devon Achane is one hell of a find.
Yes.
Like, that's a hell of a draft pick, so I don't want to just jump or dwell on all the negatives. For me, the biggest problem is watching Andrew Van Ginkel ball out all season long and just scratching your head going, unless he really had made it clear to them, I'm not going to play here, which I guess is possible.
What did Minnesota give him? $9 million a year?
I don't even think that, was it?
I'm saying it wasn't a blockbuster deal, but he got some bread. 10 a year?
He got $1 million more than what the Dolphins
he was getting here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we all kind of came to the conclusion that he wanted to go back to Minnesota. I mean, that's kind of, I
it's
think
possible. Like I say, if he literally said, hey, I love playing defense under Flo, and I want to go to Minnesota. Like if there was no chance, but the Dolphins also could have made that clear as well. We really wanted to resign Andrew Van Ginkel. He didn't want to be here.
Huck,
I think they undervalued him though. That's the issue.
No,
totally.
I'm from the Midwest. My family in Minnesota. I love Brian Flores. We'll give you $12 million. I like Miami too.
But I don't know if that would I don't know if that would have done it.
Okay,
if he
13.
was saying, hey, I'm going there for 10 mil a season. If you want to pay me 18, I'll stay here. And all of a sudden, 18, we're all going, what's going on there? Is he really worth 18 mil a season? So I don't know the backstory. My belief is they just undervalued him and let him go because they didn't think it. I'm making up a lot of reasons. Yes. My real belief is they undervalued him, let him go because they didn't think it was that much of a big deal or worth any kind of investment. And I think the same thing happened with Christian Wilkins. You know, they were like, hey, he's good, but not worth breaking the bank for.
Christian Wilkins, guy you drafted. Robert Hunt, guy you drafted. And other teams see the value and you don't. And then you see Liam Eichenberg getting holding calls on big third downs. So, but like you said, Andre Johnson went in the 4th round. I brought his name up earlier. It's just in my mind. Like, did 32 NFL teams mess up? Tom Brady in the 7th, the 32 NFL teams. So you can do the redrafting again, but them not keeping, to your point about Van Ginkel, them not keeping proven guys that you evaluated, brought in, made prominent in this league, and then you just don't have a plan to keep them is questionable. Honestly, I never liked the Bradley Chubb thing, but I'm not swinging back and forth on this. When they brought him in,
season last season.
When they brought him in at 30 years old for all that money, I was like, this is going to be a problem for the Javon Hollins. This is going to be a problem for the Jalen Phillips. This is going to be a problem for our young defenders when you just paid this guy $20+ million a year.
I mean, you could do that, though. Like, Chris Grier does have a lot of really good draft picks, a lot of really good acquisitions. But I think when you look at it in the macro, right? I mean, this rebuild started in 2018 when they tanked, or 2019, and then they drafted their quarterback. I mean, you're entering year 5 right now.
Oh, I'm not.
You've regressed. You know what I mean? Like, big picture, they regressed this year.
No doubt. Yeah, I think this year you look at Chris Grier and you go, you know what? It just hasn't worked. And this year, again, for the first time, we've talked about it. You're kind of looking at Mike McDaniel going, hey, what's going on here? I saw a really interesting tweet today. I copied it somewhere. Well, let me see if I have this. I thought this was interesting, and I don't know if I totally believe this or not. Oh, it was Evan Cohen from ESPN, but Chris Canty, he does a show with Chris Canty. So Chris Canty's on ESPN. This is what he said. The Dolphins hired Brian Flores to be the coach of the Miami Dolphins. They hired Mike McDaniel to be the coach of Tua. And if that's the case, if what Chris Canty is saying there, if you believe that's valid, well, now that's being exposed. Because it was brilliant when everything was out there. And again, they look okay now, but I'm going back to the 4 games that Tua wasn't there. If there's some truth in what Chris Canty sees, then he's been exposed. It's, I'm trying to think. There's plenty of coaches who get exposed when they don't have their star player.
But there's also a lot of coaches that you see overcome losing their star player. And that's what it's proven now. Hell, Tua's injury.
This is the first season where you kind of look at Mike McDaniel going, what's going on here? Like, what is going on here?
But we could look back when who was it when Tua got hurt last time? Was it Brissett?
Mm-hmm.
That was Jacoby Brissett. That offense wasn't humming. It was a
but it didn't fall off a cliff either.
Yeah. This was ugly. We're talking about 11 points a game.
Which I believe makes it more of a personnel issue than it does. And again, I'm not giving Mike McDaniel free clearance there, but their personnel when it came to backup quarterback this season probably may have changed the future of Chris Grier with the organization, maybe even Mike McDaniel. Honestly, like, you have an adequate backup. When Tua goes down, we're probably not having this conversation.
But take CJ Stroud, put CJ Stroud on the Panthers and put Bryce Young on the Texans, and we're not acting like DeMeco Ryans is this young superstar head coach either.
Agreed. It's always a combination of everything.
Yes, but it's just even there's no Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid doesn't have Super Bowl. He had one in Philly, obviously, but he wouldn't have multiple Super Bowls if Patrick Mahomes was never born. So, like, the thing of, they totally botched the backup quarterback position, but I would say that I think a lot of coaches are attached to their quarterback. To Chris Canty's point,
no doubt,
a bunch of coaches are attached.
Coaches are attached to superstars. Period. You've seen Greg Popovich when he has superstars. You've seen him when he's got no superstars, and you've seen Phil Jackson with the best player in all of basketball, and then maybe the best tandem in all of basketball. And then you saw what he did in New York, and the triangle offense doesn't exactly work when you may not have the best player in basketball. So I'm not discounting any of that. I'm just saying, if you look at it, like Solana said, kind of in the macro, it just hasn't, it hasn't worked. They've regressed this season, but part of the reason that they've regressed is they were not prepared personnel-wise, which is their job. They were not prepared for the eventuality of missing out on some key players. And that probably will come back to bite them at the end of the season. But again, that's their fault. They went with Skylar Thompson over Mike White. And I don't know if Mike White would have been the answer or not. But then they went with Tim Boyle. And then they went with Tyler Huntley. Like, they never had a grasp of that personnel problem. And that's probably going to cost someone a job.
There's a lot revisionist history. I love the phrase. Keeping Skylar Thompson here for 3 years is going to be Chris Grier's downfall. You watched him every single day of practice, every single offseason, every single OTA, every single workout. You thought he was the answer with a guy that has history injury. We're good because Skylar's here. Year 2, all camp. We're good. Skylar's here. Year 3, all through camp. We're good because Skylar's here. That's the biggest mistake. Skylar is not going to start in this league in his entire life. Tim Boyle's not starting this league. Tyler Huntley's not starting. But the Skylar Thompson thing is the biggest question. And Chris Grier is a friend of mine. He came and worked me out of Florida. He drafted me. He was here. The Skylar Thompson thing is going to – if he does have a downfall, that will be his downfall.
Or it goes back to what you were saying, Hawk, and what Canty said. McDaniel's here to coach Tua, not the team, because I'm with you, Crowder, but Mike McDaniel had 3 years to develop Skylar Thompson and clearly thought that he was also a suitable backup. And if he failed at developing the guy that he and his boss chose to keep as the backup, I think he deserves just as much blame for that also. But I'll say, we can blame Grier, we can blame McDaniel, blame the players too. It's not McDaniel's fault that the Dolphins lead the league in fumbles. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it might be his fault that they're an undisciplined team. They are among the top in pre-snap penalties, but that's also on the players, man. I think it's all levels here.
Oh, I think so too. There's
the ball.
There's blame to go around.
It is, but Solana, to your point about development, I can't make veal parmesan with pasta meat. Like Skylar will never be able to run this offense.
Shouldn't Mike McDaniel know that? Hey, Chris, this is not the guy.
But again, you never know. What if he said it several times and they're like, no, you'll be fine with him. I mean, I don't know. Cam Smith is another guy you can point at, by the way, with Chris Grier selecting and go, what exactly has transpired here?
It's Austin Jackson. First round pick, moved him positions 4 times. Like, there's questions, there's hits. I think Kalen Wright. I think young Kalen, the running back. I think Raheem's gone after this year. I'm fine with Achane and Wright. Like, I think he's hit on
Jalen Wright.
Jalen Wright.
Kalen.
Kalen Balaj. Is that who you're thinking of? You have PTSD for Kalen Balaj?
I'm allergic. I mean, I'm addicted to this offer up. And I think I was talking to somebody named Kalen on offer up. They have some great deals.
Are you kidding me?
Because remember, I got the home gym off of OfferUp.
But why are you buying stuff off OfferUp? You're a really successful guy. What are you doing?
I just bought a gasoline-powered remote control car because they're usually $1,200. This guy was selling it for $220.
What are you doing?
I don't need it, but the deals are so amazing.
You can't sit down with Barack Obama last week and then scroll offer up this week to see someone who's selling a pack of hot dogs who just went vegan and they don't want it anymore. Like,
didn't say hot dogs.
What are you doing?
Gasoline power remote control car, $200.
Is that where you bought your teeth?
Wow. Holy mackerel.
Hey, Jimmy.
Out of nowhere.
I'm going to get on that bang. That's strike 2. That's strike 2, Jimmy.
That was off the top rope.
You about to jump in the game here in a second.